I can't tell you how exciting it was when I was able to upgrade this Blu-ray 3-pack of Halloween H2O, Resurrection, and Curse of Michael Myers into the Scream Factory 4K box set. And even though this has been out a couple years, I wanted to kind of revisit this and take a look back on it because for a Halloween fan, and especially for a Halloween fan from this generation of Halloween and this era of Halloween, this was really exciting because when I was growing up, I used to watch Resurrection and Curse. I feel like I had to wait till AMC's FearFest, basically, where they're showing all the different horror franchises during Halloween season, and I would just record it on the DVR or the TiVo, and that's how I really was watching Curse and Resurrection all these times. H2O had standalone releases, and all of them did, but I believe this 3-pack came out like in 2020, and that's when I finally actually owned these movies on home video. And so for me, as someone who grew up during this era of Halloween, these were the Halloween movies. H2O was such a huge deal, and that was such a entrance into the franchise if you weren't into the franchise before, to kind of go back and be like, man, what's all the fuss about with this 20 years later and stuff? Obviously Josh Hartnett, Michelle Williams, Jamie Lee Curtis being back. It was a huge event. And Curse was one that always I felt like got lost in the shuffle, even though it has a really young Paul Rudd, Donald Pleasance is back. I felt like it was one of those ones that we never knew if we were going to get a true collector's edition release of it. And so for Scream Factory, and I really wish Scream Factory would get back to doing stuff like this, but the fact that they gave us the essential release, I don't think there'll ever be a better release of the Curse of Michael Myers in home video history. I mean, I don't know how much better you can get. 4-disc set, new 4K scan, has the producer's cut on 4K. It's just a phenomenal release. And so that was one that I always wanted one because I've always had a love for the Curse of Michael Myers. I thought it had a lot of stuff going on. I thought it had a different take on the material. It just oozes like 90s nostalgia. Like when you rewatch that movie now, it definitely feels like a 90s Halloween movie. And I think that's what I loved about the Dimension Miramax era and why these three are always kind of destined to be together. And it makes sense because all three of these movies kind of work together in unison. It's like this sub-universe within the Halloween franchise. You look at the David Gordon Green trilogy that just came out, though all three of those movies feel connected because it's a trilogy, But these movies right here also, in my opinion, feel very connected to each other. And I always feel like this is a great, like, triple feature. And one that, if you want to have like a Halloween night, like these are three that you could watch and they all feel like they belong together. And I thought that was really cool. And it was such a big moment to also get Resurrection because Resurrection's considered one of the worst in the franchise, And I have a real nostalgia for that movie because, again, I was like the perfect age for when that movie came out. It was like, man, they're bringing Jamie Lee Curtis back again, And if you remember the ending of H2O, you're like, how are they going to do this, And then we saw what the result was, but there's still a nostalgia there. It's like, there's still that nostalgia of them trying to integrate the new technology of the time in that movie. And I can watch it now and still have a lot of fun with it. And the fact that, Scream Factory gave us this release and gave us all these new special features on this Resurrection disc is just so cool. And again, I don't think you're going to ever get a better release of Halloween Resurrection. If you do, it'll just be another version of this. Maybe they'll add another special feature. But unless they really go up to like a bunch of different, 8K and all this stuff, I mean, this is the essential version of this movie. And it's a great release, and it's a great way to kind of appreciate the movie more when you kind of look back at the special features and you have interviews with the actors and the people that made the movie. I think that this is kind of that forgotten era of Halloween. I feel like these are three movies. H2O has kind of picked up steam over the years. Curse and Resurrection always felt like those two forgotten ones more than H2O, but still, these three feel like that versions of the movie that people needed a collector's edition release of. And once we got it, it really felt like it joined the family of Halloween and it really joined the legacy of it. And I think that's why physical media is so important, to keep the legacy alive for all these movies and to introduce it to new fans and to introduce it to a new era of Halloween fans that maybe grew up with the David Gordon Green trilogy that just came out. What's really cool about these movies, I keep showing the Blu-ray even though I could show this because this looks cooler on camera, but what really is cool about this era of Halloween, and I say this all the time about a franchise that goes on as long as Halloween's gone on, there's an entry point for every Halloween fan. Some people really got introduced to Halloween when it first came out. Some people really got introduced to Halloween when 4 and 5 came out. People really got introduced to Halloween during the Miramax and Dimension era. And then some people got introduced to Halloween during the Rob Zombie film. Some people got introduced to Halloween during the David Gordon Green trilogy. So again, it's so cool to kind of see a franchise go on for so long like Halloween has, see the different entry points, and see how each fan has their own experience behind why they fell in love with the franchise. And I can just say that that these 3 movies right here were a big part in why I fell in love with Halloween, and the fact that I was able to get the 3-pack just cements that even more, because I have those true editions of that movie, and it kind of, validates my love for those movies. And I'm not saying they're my favorite in the franchise or anything, but they do hold a real special part in my heart because of the age I was growing up watching the movies, because of the hype that was around all of them, and how people, and when we were growing up, we were getting really hyped for the new Michael Myers film. So it's just really cool to kind of look back on that, and looking back on this Blu-ray to 4K upgrade is really cool to kind of relive that story every time I kind of revisit these movies every Halloween season. So let me know in the comments below what kind of era of Halloween you grew up with, what kind of era of Halloween you appreciate the most, even though they might not be the favorite in the franchise. What are ones that you really revisit the most and kind of bring back those memories of falling in love with the Halloween franchise? Love to hear from you. I'll be checking out the comments and responding, and I'll catch you in the next one.